PD1, Mrs. Whitfield, FSBA governance.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to bring this back up. It's something we talked about, I think, back in January, about having FSBA come in and talk about our governance as a board and how we decide that. I think, for me, this is an important discussion because, there's really not much that's more important to me than how well this school district runs. I think that we are... I think that we really need to have hard discussions with each other and discuss things about how we choose chair and vice chair and what those responsibilities entail. I think this is something that I think is important going forward for us. So I wanted to ask my fellow board members if we could have this discussion at our upcoming retreat. I did speak to Andrea Messina, and she would be able to send a representative. She couldn't come herself. So I know our staff has had a chance to have that conversation. But really, I think it would be good for all of us, especially with having a new board member. And, for my own educational purposes, I would really like to understand better the ways that we can be the most effective governing board that we can be. So I just wanted to ask if you all would be okay with adding that to the upcoming retreat.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes, Mrs. Whitfield, I think it's more than needed. And the last time we actually had our training with the Florida School Board, we had not had a break. Now that we have a new board member, we need to have our retraining so that we can be a master board again. I mean, we were able to utilize the training because all of us that are in here now were a part of that training, but now that we have a new board member, we need to take it a step further, not just with the meeting that we'll have at the retreat, but we need to now talk to the Florida School Boards Association so that we can get training for our new board member. So it goes to another level.
Go ahead, Ms. Brew.
Thank you, and I think it's a great idea. The only concern I have is adding it to that retreat. I don't know if we should have a separate one. I don't know if it's, I don't want to, I don't know how long it's going to take for us to do the work that we already have scheduled. So I'm open to doing a second retreat if that works better. I'll leave that to the superintendent and staff. I just don't want us to run short on time on either discussion because both are very critical.
Mrs. McQuinn?
I don't know if the retreat has been timed out yet, but I do know that Mrs. Whitfield has been trying to have this discussion for a while. I'd like to see it as part of our retreat, even if we just get started on it. Again, I don't know if has everything been timed out yet?
When I talked to Mr. Tierney today, he indicated that there was room at the retreat to
Yep.
handle the
Mr.
issue.
Chairman, if you give me, I can respond to that. We have built 3 hours for our equity conversation, and we can build 1 more hour to start this conversation around board governance. And we have been in contact with FSBA, and we do have that alternate that'll be willing to come. So it's at the pleasure of the board.
So to follow up then, I think it's important because this is something that she's expressed that she feels strongly about, and I think there are a few things I feel strongly about too, like how long we speak. So I think we need to review a few rules just about how we handle, protocols and that kind of thing. So thank you. If we can make that happen, I'd like to.
Does everybody agree with Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. I'm in agreement. I don't know, what are the planned hours for the retreat, though? Matt?
The number of hours, we don't have the times as of yet. But we know it was 4 hours with this particular edition. So we're still working with the board on what works for all of your schedules.
So as I recall, those times that we had the trainings with FSBA, it was like a half a day. Is my recollection off? It was at least I'm gonna say 3 hours, right? Now, so I don't really know what's planned, and I don't want to just dip our collective toe in the water and then walk away. I would be willing to extend the hours that we are in the retreat in order to accomplish that, because I think it's kind of foundational for our reset.
Mr. Barbie.
Yeah, when we did the master board training the last time, I think it was at least 4 hours. It was like from 9 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon where they came down and we did. So, I mean, I didn't think that Mrs. Whitfield was talking about doing the master board training at the retreat, but just discussing governance in general. Ms. Brewer?
Well, I agree with Dr. Robinson, though, if we can extend the hours for the retreat, and just make it a longer day, because I think that Mrs. Whitfield's discussion is very important. I know that you have brought it up, and I don't want it to be pushed back, but at the same time, I want to make sure we have adequate time. And Dr. Robinson's correct. When we have had FSBA come down, it's been several hours. So, even if we started in the morning, broke for lunch, and came back and worked in the afternoon, I'm fine with that. I'm happy to block my day. I'm sure everybody else is. And that way we can really dive deep.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would turn over to Mr. Tierney, who's organizing this, to have a conversation with the board around next steps.
This was per Ms. Whitfield's request on governance. It wasn't the whole 4-hour master board training. That being said, we could try to extend it. But my understanding is there was at least one board member who had a conflict in the afternoon, which also led to that compression. So we'll reach out again to the board secretaries to see if everyone's available, and if they are, then we'll look to extend it.
And maybe, and if the board is not available, I think I heard another board member mention, maybe we can schedule another time specifically for master board training, I think is what the term you used. So I think we'll start with Mr. Tierney, working with you guys to see if we can extend the existing meeting on the 4th.
Ms. McGuinn?
I'm so sorry. Thank you, Mr. Tierney. I am the board member who had the conflict. Okay, and I didn't thank Maria for all help. She's kept me pretty solid for the last 4 years, and things are crumbling a little bit in the last month or so. Anyway, all right, my calendar's out of control. I will make mine work. I'll just make it happen, whatever we need to do.
All right, any further discussion? All right, Mr. Tierney, you got your work cut out for you. BD2, Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. So there are rumors that, I just want to say this, he who shall not be named in Tallahassee is considering pushing all students to return to brick and mortar schools in January. And that's extremely troubling to me. As we watch the COVID numbers spike, and after listening to parent choice as the mantra for forced reopening of our schools in the fall. So I'm very concerned, and I know that we have the Thanksgiving, and then after the winter holidays, is going to be more cases. So it's going to get worse before it gets better, most likely. So the concept of pushing students back into schools where they're unable to maintain social distancing, just simply because we don't have enough space to do so, is frightening. So at this point, I'm not talking about what we should decide to do. I'm not talking about whether we should close schools. I'm not talking about whether schools should be opening. What I'm saying is it should be our decision. And so what I'm asking, and we just authorized staff to request the Attorney General opinion about sunshine meetings under, local control kind of scenarios. So I'm asking that this board direct the superintendent to lay the foundation for a call to action consistent with our policy 2.591, should that become necessary, because things are going to move fast. Hopefully they won't move rapidly in the direction I'm afraid of, but if it does, I think that we need to call upon everyone, PTAs, CTAs, every acronym on earth, and our parents and students, right, to add their voices to say, in Palm Beach County, we should decide what happens in Palm Beach County schools. And so that's the purpose of my discussion item, to request laying the foundation for a call to action should it become necessary.
Mrs. Whitfield?
Thank you. This is something that's been a real big concern for me as well. When I was reading over our legislative priorities, it's included in there as something that we said, but to me it's not big enough and it's not loud enough. I really do think that we are going to get to a place where families are not going to send their children back to us if we don't have this as an option, and we already are struggling with finding these children, keeping these children in school. We're 7,000 kids down. I think that number is going to go up. And then I'm very concerned about our teachers who are currently working remotely successfully and are not going to be able to do that going forward. So I think we do need to put together a collective voice from the school district, letting everybody know that this is something that we really need for our families here, that we need for our community. We have to be able to continue to offer this distance learning option. And if we don't, I'm very concerned for what that means for our schools. So I would be supportive of a call to action.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes, I'm very supportive of the call to action. I was very happy to see Elena Alonso here, because everything is driven by the health piece of this. And our teachers right now, our parents, students, they're all concerned because of this rumor that we're going to ask everyone to come back to brick and mortar. And we really need to have all of the key stakeholders, especially our health professionals who are leading the way, looking at our numbers every single day. This is why I asked Dr. Alonso to come back to the next board meeting in December so that she can continue to give us an update. But we need to be in charge of our own lives. This is local control right here. This is what the school board is all about. And so we need to begin to build on it. As I look at this building, you know, I'm someone that's at risk because of my age, you know, and when you think about some of the people who work in this building, they can't, all of you can't be piled up here in this building. You're still not back to work fully 100%. You're actually transitioning different days coming into work. And so to even think about, we're going to bring the kids and have them, you know, all back in school, and even our staff is not there, and we're talking about saving lives, and you're looking at the rates of infection, and you haven't seen the deaths yet, because remember, they lag. It's coming, folks. You're going to see it. So we need to direct the superintendent, as well as all of our stakeholders, begin to start talking about the plan of action, because it is truly our local responsibility as a school board.
Ms. Brill?
Thank you. And so as you'll recall, my absolute top priority has been local control in terms of our legislative platform. And then I thank Dr. Robinson for bringing this forward. What I'd like to see staff do is prepare for that call to action now. Align all of the lists of resources of the people we're going to have to hit, because as Dr. Robinson said, it's going to be fast moving. The train is going to leave the station very quickly. But then the other piece, and I think I spoke to Mr. Tierney about it, is we have to do our own call to action, but I think that we need to also leverage with Miami-Dade and Broward, because our three counties are the ones with the most impact from COVID-19. So I think we structure that, but at the same time, in the background, let's start leveraging that relationship, because we have to hit hard. Thank you.
Dr. Robinson?
Thank you, and that's exactly what I'm asking for, that we lay the groundwork. We start making the list of all the entities. I think for our representatives on FSBA, you can start reaching out to them to say, listen, you know, maybe it's not impacting you as much as it would impact us, but don't you agree? Would you not want local control also, right? Because it seems to me that that phrase, everybody should be able to support, right? And I think that maybe now, there's a Florida Board of Education meeting tomorrow, so maybe we'll hear something tomorrow, but even if there are not bad decisions being made this week, I think that we could start laying the foundation, the education of our associates and our connections on why this is a bad move, if they should try to force us back into brick and mortar.
Dr. Fennoy, I understand you've been dealing with the other superintendents in Broward and Miami-Dade on this very issue. Can you bring us up to date on that?
Ms. McQuinn had a comment.
All right, Ms. McQuinn, go ahead.
And I can see that Dr. Fennoy is going to do this, and I hear Dr. Robinson about everyone would understand that. No, the other districts don't really understand what we, Broward and Dade, have gone through. So I would like, we need to band together, because that's what ultimately has, I think, been part of our salvation through this. So I don't think everybody will be understanding for the greater good. I think that we have to band together.
I would just say, I mean, the board members know, but the public is not aware. So there are certain foundational pieces that have been said. Mr. Bob Runcie, Alberto Cavallo, and myself have sent a joint letter on behalf of our 3 districts to the commissioner around the executive order and extending those options for South Florida. So that's been done. On Thursday, we have all 67 superintendents have a meeting with Commissioner Corcoran through FADS to talk about next steps. So I will report back to the board after that meeting. And I think Dr. Robinson said there are state-level board meetings that are happening this week, and so we'll get that information as well. I also would like to say that on your platform, the board has put information around home rule. So that's already part of the legislative platform. But again, I think the foundations of that piece have already been set in terms of the combination of all 3 South Florida districts.
Okay. All right, so, Mr. Superintendent, you can put together for us to start working on the call to action information that we'll need to get this done?
Yeah, I think what we'll start by doing is making sure the board is fully aware of everything we've done up to this date,
Okay.
and then getting your ideas around potential next steps. So yes, we'll do that.
We just, keep in mind, board members, we are past the 7 o'clock point and we.
Okay, one sentence. So maybe it's 2, I don't know. So, but I think that soon we need to like have a statement that says why, home rule, local control, whatever is important to us. I realize that with COVID, we are particularly situated, but those same other counties, the very people who would impose this brick and mortar on us are the same people who in other circumstances talk about home rule, right? I'm just saying. So like maybe we pull some of that, but I think that we can start educating our community members and our partners on why this is important to us, but not unleash them, so to speak, unless there's a bad move made. That's my request.
And perhaps, Mr. Superintendent, the Communications Division can somehow get the message out. We're getting lots of emails from parents that are hearing about this and want to know what the plan is from the school board, whether or not we're going to be closing the school. So we need to get some information out to them that the school board is not in favor of, having everybody come back in, in January. So if we can get some information out.
So I want to make sure that, and this is more of a procedural thing, so I definitely want to get feedback from all the board members, but we're going to need, I guess, the chairman or vice chair to make sure that the language that we create is suitable to the board, because we only have one meeting, and it sounds like we probably need to get this, we definitely need to get this communication out before the next board meeting. So we just need to talk, maybe the chairman and I could talk about those pieces, making sure that you have the board representation on the words that we create.
Dr. Robinson?
I think you need to share it with all of us.
No.
Okay.
I agree. It's just making sure that whatever the final piece is.
The final piece.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Mrs. Andrews, we got to remember, where are we?
We're going to make it quickly because Broward and Miami-Dade, when they did their plan, it was a little different from us. So I'm happy to know that you're having the conversations with the superintendents from the big South Florida counties. And we know we've got to put it out there. We don't need someone to go into some room in Tallahassee somewhere and make a decision about what's going to happen here in Palm Beach County. And I don't want to wake up one day to find out that the decision has already been made. So, Dr. Panoa, as you're working with those other leaders, if we have to call a special board meeting for us to kind of make a statement, I really want that to happen, because I don't want anybody listening at this meeting to think that this is what I want to happen. We are in real serious trouble with our health as well as this pandemic right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The football players, those of you that have turned in cards or want to speak tonight, stand up for me for a minute so I can see how many of you are there that have asked to speak. So board members, if you don't have any concerns about this, I'd like to take those young men first so that they can get home. They have school tomorrow.